Hey everybody, Zach here, back again for another message of LETR-Z. That's lies exposed, truth revealed in the last days. Because the Elohim that we serve is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first to the last, the Aleph and the Ta, the A to the Z. And we are living in the Z. We're going to be jumping back in here on part 4, Evil Rides the Wind. And we're going to be starting with the day of the Euroclydon. The longest lasting storm in the Bible, over 2 weeks, is actually given a name, Euroclydon, Acts 27:14. So what are we to make of this? Was this a storm brought by the devil? Possibly, especially when we consider several Bible facts. First, even before the Tempest appears, the ships which bring Paul to Rome, there are 2, are fighting against the wind. The winds first become contrary, just after departing Sidon, Acts 27:1-4. Later, more difficulty is sailing is encountered near Cnidus, Acts 27:5-7. Once Paul reacts the fair havens at Crete, he warns his captors. I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading and ship, but also of our lives. Acts 27:11. What caused Paul to perceive that the remainder of this trip would be wrought with peril? Was this some kind of a premonition on Paul's part, or was it something more? I believe the answer to this is revealed later in the account. In any case, before departing Crete, the sea appears to settle down. This lull prompts the master of the ship to journey onward. It is then that Euroclydon appears, Acts 27:12-14. Clearly, the arrival of this monster storm is the danger of which Paul warned his shipmates. And true to his forewarning, once caught by the gale, all hell breaks loose. After being exceedingly tossed with a tempest, and that being no small tempest, the ravages of Euroclydon, with its dark and blackened skies, brings Paul's companions to a state of forlorn and hopelessness. This looked like the end, Acts 27:12-14. And yet, in spite of all this, Paul announces, "And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of Yahuwah, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar to Rome, and lo, Yahuwah hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe Yahuwah that it shall be even as it was told me." Acts 27:20-25. The fact that Paul is now told that the Most High is protecting him and his companions from Euroclydon indicates that this thing was probably not a product of the Most High's hand. Euroclydon, and verily all the contrary winds from the very start, likely resulted from the prince of the power of the air. Paul's escape from this storm finally comes once he reaches the Isle of Melita, Acts 28:1. If the devil was responsible for Euroclydon, what purpose would it have served in preventing Paul from reaching Rome? Paul's presence in Rome was part of his commission from Yahuwah that he would be sent far hence unto the Gentiles. Acts 9:15-22-21. From all outward appearances, Paul was on his way to Rome to simply stand before Caesar. Acts 25:10-12. But it was the Most High who was bringing him there to spread the gospel to the Gentiles. Thus, who would benefit the most by preventing Paul from reaching Rome? Yahuwah, or the devil. I don't believe the appearance of Euroclydon was a coincidence, nor was it a mere act of nature, especially since the storm is recorded in Scripture. Greater forces were at work. Consider that even before this incident, in Paul's early writings, he mentions Satan hindering him in the spreading of the gospel. 1 Thessalonians 2. Satan and his minions knew Paul personally and what he was doing for the Most High. One devil is even recorded as saying, Yahusha I know, and Paul I know. Acts 19:15. If there was ever any man in this world that the devil was going to attack, it would have been Paul. There's no reason to believe that such satanic obstructions would have abated on Paul's voyage to Rome. In all likelihood, Euroclydon was the devil incognito. Paul and his shipmates after being hit by the monster Tempest, Euroclydon. The storm and the spirits of the Gadarenes. In the book of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we find another curious occurrence surrounding the manifestation of a storm. All three books give corresponding records of the event. Here, Messiah and his disciples are found crossing the Sea of Galilee to the eastern shore. Upon their arrival to the country of the Gadarenes, aka Gergesa, they encounter two men inhabited by the largest concentration of devil spirits mentioned anywhere in the Bible, Legion. Mark 5:9, Luke 8:30. The interesting thing about this is that just before this meeting, the master and the disciples, Master Yahusha, and the disciples are faced with a violent wind. All three books give testimony to this. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves. Matthew 8:24. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. Mark 4:37. There came down a storm of wind on the lake, and they were filled with water and were in jeopardy. Luke 8:23. This storm is so strong and erupts so fast that its waves immediately fill the boat with water. Recognizing that their lives are in danger, the disciples are terrified and cry out to the Master Messiah. Then speaks to the foul wind, whereupon it instantly dissipates. Is this another supposed coincidence, like the appearance of Euroclydon with Paul? Or is there a connection between this great wind and the demon-infested lands next door? Knowing the demon of the empire of the air, I think it would be naive to assume that these two things, the storm and the legion, were completely independent of each other. I believe that once Yahusha and his disciples entered their ship and headed towards the Gadarenes, the devil may have attempted to protect a demonic stronghold. He did this by raising a storm. This is not beyond the realm of possibility. The Legion likewise attempted to turn Messiah away by asking him, What have we to do with thee, Yahusha, thou son of Yahuwah? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? Matthew 8:29. Immediately following a powerful storm at sea, Yahusha encounters Legion. The devils knew that they had an appointed time, Revelation 20:10. They also knew that this was not it, but their question did not deter the master from rebuking them. He had the power to send them away, even though this was not their appointed time of judgment. And this is exactly what he did. Messiah then cast the legion into a herd of swine. The possessed host then departs into the very waters over which the recent tempest arose. Matthew 8:32, Mark 5:13, Luke 8:33. I will personally be doing a video pertaining to swine and why we as believers should actually avoid it and stay away from it. I'll be going into full depth. It is something I've been working on for a while, so stick with me, stay tuned for that. I got a lot to say about it. Euroclydon and the fierce storm adjoining Gargisa both contain compelling circumstantial evidence that they may have been wrought by the prince of the power of the air. If this is the case, then there are also good examples of covert supernaturalism. Alien Tornado. In the 2012 made-for-TV film Alien Tornado, also called Alien Storm and Tornado Warning, unseen intelligences from beyond Earth are found creating severe electrical storm activity as a way to conquer the world. Does this sound like an original idea? It's not. Satan really can control such things. The movie simply replaces demons with space aliens for its storyline. That's how the devil does it. He often shows what he's doing in movies. And then when a believer brings up the issue, someone says, "You got that from a science fiction movie." No, I got it from the Bible. The filmmaker got it from the devil. The Bible is always light years ahead of science and science fiction. And Satan's ahead of Hollywood, or the head of Hollywood. There's no new thing under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Picture of alien tornado. Footnote. To read more about so-called aliens and how Satan uses science fiction, see the book What Dwells Beyond. That is the other book that has been written by Jeffrey W. Mardis, who, of course, did this book. The Tempest That Swallows the Earth. The largest and oldest storm in the known universe is not found on Earth, but the planet Jupiter. Having been mysteriously sustained for at least the last 340 years, Jupiter's cyclonic behemoth is easily big enough to engulf the whole Earth. At one time, the hurricane-like vortex was said to be large enough to immerse 3 worlds of the Earth's size. With outer wind speeds, according to NASA, by the way, NASA, NASA means deception in Hebrew. Don't believe them. Estimated at around 400 miles per hour. It takes the monster about 7 days to make one complete rotation. A whole list of unknowns surround this thing. 1. Science doesn't know when the storm began. Its longevity can't be explained. 2. Science doesn't know when it will stop, or if it will stop. 3. Science has no idea what makes the thing red. 4. Science can't explain how the storm's speed fluctuates so much and so drastically. Does this alien cyclone have any connection to the prince of the power of the air? Maybe. Perhaps it's worth considering that the official name of this Jovian tempest is the Great Red Spot. In Scripture, the word spot is nearly always in reference to a blemish or imperfection. The word spot first appears in conjunction with leprosy, which always typifies sin. Leviticus 13:2. See also Ephesians 5:27, Hebrews 9:14, etc. According to the Bible, when a spot in the skin appears reddish, like Jupiter's storm, it's indicative of an unclean thing. Leviticus 13:18, 18 through 51, etc. Messiah, the Lamb of Yahuwah, because he's sinless, is said to be without blemish and without spot. 1 Peter 1:19. And finally, the first creature that sinned and brought sin to man is now also called a great red something. Revelation 12:3. So what do these scriptures imply about the largest storm known to man? Like leprosy, the giant storm is reddish. Like leprosy, the giant storm is called a spot. In certain ways, Jupiter's great red spot seems emblematic of the great red dragon. The devil, after all, is the great red spot that mars the universe with sin. This is why he must be destroyed. 1 John 3:8. And just as the God of this world, little g God, will eventually rule the world, so too is Jupiter's great spot large enough to engulf our planets. Note what the Bible says about Nebuchadnezzar, who often pictured the devil. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. Jeremiah 51:34. Interestingly, apart from the Earth, Jupiter is the only other planet in the Bible explicitly mentioned by name. Acts 19:35. In this reference is found a record of something falling to Earth from Jupiter. Is this foreshadowing the day when the great red sinner is finally cast out of the heavens and down to the earth? Like the arrival of a monstrous tempest, this marks the time when the world goes into chaos and tribulation. A time when Satan will unleash his powers of the air upon this world, unfettered. Perhaps the day that Jupiter's giant storm dissipates and finally comes to an end will coincide with this catastrophic event. An early sketch of Jupiter's great red spot, circa 1667. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Revelation 12:12. Prince of Pestilence. Another pertinent matter related to Satan and the air is sickness, disease, and pestilence. Again, this is not to say that the devil is responsible for every single case of these types of things, but he certainly has more involvement than modern science credits him. Disease and sickness are innate in fallen man, as well as animals and pollutants in the environment. This is due to the curse of sin upon the universe. This means that we can be born with infirmities, John 9:2. As well as acquires them at any time throughout our lives. In addition to this, however, these things can also be inflicted by Yahuwah, angels, or devils. The first time any sort of disease shows up in the Bible, it appears in connection with the plagues of Egypt. These plagues consisted of massive outbreaks of frogs, lice, flies, and locusts, along with aerial phenomena like hail, fire, and preternatural darkness. With these things also came blains, boils, and a destroyer, a bringer of death, which was likely the devil himself. Exodus 12:23, 1 Corinthians 10:10, etc. Satan no doubt can inflict any sort of infirmity. The Most High, or the Master Yahushua HaMashiach, the Messiah, once healed a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years and was bowed together, whom Satan hath bound. Luke 13:10-17. Paul was also afflicted with a specific infirmity which he described as a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan. 2 Corinthians 12:7. Giving an affliction a title like the messenger implies that Paul's blemish was more than something physical, but some kind of unclean spirit, since many illnesses are airborne and communicable by the air. It's easy to see how the prince of the power of the air can impact the outcome of disease. His command over atmospheric phenomena gives him license to control such things as the common cold, the flu, chickenpox, measles, mumps, whooping cough, tuberculosis, diphtheria, anthrax, SARS, and a whole host of other airborne afflictions we know nothing about. Birds and certain flying insects are also known to be carriers of disease. Of course, the devil's not limited to the control of airborne viruses, but his princeship over the air certainly gives him an advantage. In the context of plagues, the psalmist writes of the pestilence that walketh in darkness, which may very well be the devil, or a description of some kind of activity, malefic spirit. Psalms 91:6. Author and scientist Dr. Mike Bailey has said about one of mankind's worst pestilence encounters. We have discovered that this could have been an extraterrestrial impact. This would have caused a corruption in the atmosphere, which made the population highly susceptible to disease. The 1348 plague really was in a league of its own, killing a third to a half of the population. That is from Nathan Rao. Black Death was triggered by asteroid impact and could reoccur today, scientist claims. That's from Express Newspapers, 21st of February 2015. Dr. Bailey's extraterrestrial object was not an alien of any kind, but reportedly a comet which interacted with the Earth's atmosphere. Plainly speaking, it may have been an astronomical event, a fireball in the sky that brought one of the world's most deadly diseases, the Black Plague. There are actual reports from witnesses of the time which substantiate this theory, as well as modern tree ring studies and ice core data. Footnote: see the book New Light on the Black Death, The Cosmic Connection by Mike Bailey. Johannes Knoll, a 20th century authority on the Great Morality, wrote in his comprehensive examination of the subject. Comets were regarded as particular instigators and precursors of all plagues, and in the centuries when these epidemics were most prevalent, they were extraordinarily frequent. It is from Johannes Knoll, The Black Death, Hassel Street Press, a reprint of the original 1924 edition, page 34. Interestingly, the word influenza, from which we get the word flu, a highly contagious viral infection inhaled from the air, originates with the word influence. According to Webster's, the word influence means literally a flowing in, into, or on, and referring to substances spiritual or too subtle to be visible. In a general sense, influence denotes power whose operation is invisible and known only by its effects, or a power whose cause and operation are unseen. Ancient peoples often pointed to the stars as being these agents of influence. This sometimes manifested as astrological beliefs. Although astrology is a fair practice, it did nevertheless point to the influences as being something celestial, aerial, or atmospheric. Several modern researchers have demonstrated that plagues were often preceded by reports of sky-based phenomena like strange rains, comets, fireballs, electrical activity, blasts of hot wind, and the like. Remember what a certain influential power did to Job before he was smitten with boils. Job 1:16, 1:16 through 19, and 2:7. A 15th century comet. There it is. Up to this point, we've looked at the scriptural perspective of the three-word phrase of the air and discovered that it's primarily linked to birds. In this capacity, the wording refers to the atmosphere around the earth, where fowl have the ability to fly. This unique power of aeronautics parallels a prime characteristic of spirits, both clean and unclean. Secondly, we've noted that the devil's power of the air not only involves flight, but parlays over into the actual control of this invisible element. Wind, storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, pestilence, disease, and other related phenomena, some of which we have yet to address, are all potential outcomes of this power. In moving forward with this study, we will next attempt to go a little deeper and see how the devil's authority over the air and knowledge of the air, in conjunction with his ability to control, manipulate, and deceive man, can have a direct effect on man's technical knowledge. Before doing this, however, a little groundwork must be laid. Well, that finishes off part 4. We'll jump in the next video, part 5, called Marvelous Machines. And the cherubims lifted up their wings and mounted up from the earth in my sight. Ezekiel 10:19. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope you learned something, as I did. And Yahuwah bless you. You have a wonderful, blessed rest of your day. Love you. Bye.